I'm letting in. Hang on. Actually, no, I'm not. I just realized. Okay, I'm so professional. Hi everyone. I'm here. Oh God, no, wait.
That's the wrong one.
Yeah, we're having we're having technical difficulties, but it's okay. Sometimes sometimes VTube Studio doesn't do what you expect it to
Hmm.
do. Sometimes it just resets your background to the weird pink little cake one randomly. But yeah, hi everyone. Welcome to the Dovecote. Today is October 2nd. It is 7 o'clock p.m. EST, and you're watching the Dovecote episode 2. Uh, our guest today is Holly ChiskenNougat, um, from Twitter and other places, and I think I know you from Twitter, but I'm sure that you exist in other capacities.
Yeah,
I
kind of.
Yeah, feel free to introduce yourself.
Hi, yeah, I'm Holly. I run the, I guess, small business thing known as Chisken Nougat Press. I make tabletop RPGs and things like that, but I am mostly just active on Twitter, even though it is kind of a burning ship that's sinking. But
Yeah. It's not even really Twitter anymore, bizarrely. Uh is there a website that you'd like to me to send people towards, like a link?
uh, yeah, I have a Tumblr actually. I never
Hell yeah.
use it. I do have it.
Let me
As
oh sorry, go ahead.
I do also have a Etsy page, but I don't really expect people to go there.
I mean, is that like where do you make your business basically?
Yeah, the Etsy page that
Okay.
I have linked on my Twitter.
I will send the Etsy then. Please support Holly. Holly's very cool. Uh yeah. And yeah. Sorry, I'm like I'm more tired than I was for the last ones. It's gonna take me a bit to get into this. But I guess to start, just tell me a bit about uh you know what uh what you make, what you do, like what was sort of the stuff that you do in the tabletop role playing game scene.
So, uh, I do two very niche things, I guess. I have my tabletop RPG called Moxie, which is a sort of simple sci-fi system with a more intricate universe and whatnot around it. And then I'm also very active in the dice collecting community, oddly enough. I'm one of the, I guess, sort of experts on vintage and early tabletop dice history and things like that. I've done panels about it at Comic Con and things along those lines.
Hell yeah. What's what's the what's the weirdest set what's the weirdest set of dice that you own?
Ah, hmm. Well, the weirdest set of dice that I own history wise is a extremely rare Japanese set of horse gambling dice from probably the early 70s. Um, because it's a set of two D10s and a D8 that kind of plagued the dice collecting community for a long time because no one could figure out where they came from
Huh.
until someone was on vacation in Japan and just found a ton of vintage packs of them and sold them back to us in the US. So history-wise, that's the weirdest set.
Yeah, that is pretty wild. Um See, I'm so used to like consumer dice where it's just like, oh, this was made like a million fucking times in a factory. So like the thought of rare dice is like really interesting to me because it's something I haven't really interacted with. Um,
Yeah, sorry.
like what do those communities kind of look like? Like what's the What's the structure of like dice collection?
Dice collection is weird because there's definitely some very different parts of the community. The ones that are more focused towards vintage dice are going to be your old school gamers that are still playing AD&D and things like that. And they are very particular, but also that's kind of a closer, like more tightly knit group of people. And then for more modern stuff, then you start getting into like the Kraken collectors.
Right.
Kraken is a dice manufacturer that does a lot of kind of skeezy business practices with limited edition sets and things like that. Uh, and that side, people start getting more competitive, trying to sell sets that came out 2 years ago for $500, that kind of thing. Uh, but on the whole, it's a pretty chill group. If you kind of find the in between for those.
That's good. Um, you don't bump up too much on like fucking like OSR freak guys at all, like Grognard type guys.
Oh no. For some of the vintage folks, when the Ernie Gygax stuff happened, people kind of showed who they were, and a
Yeah,
lot of people were kind of ejected from the circles that I tend to be in, which was nice.
hell yeah. Uh,
Uh,
is I guess like is the dice collection space like what is its digital presence like? Where does it exist like digitally, or is it like mostly physical?
so digitally, everything is pretty much on Facebook,
Hmm.
oddly enough. There are two main dice collecting groups. One of, uh, I believe, Dice Goblin Horde or something like that, and the other one is just Dice Maniacs. And the two groups have a weird rivalry between them for reasons that were relevant 5 years ago. Um, but if you're trying to get into collecting dice, those are the two areas that you should pay attention to, I guess.
Interesting. Um, very cool. Let me. Yeah. Uh, I guess kind of moving on from there, I'd love to talk a bit about Moxie, which is very interesting. Um,
All right.
so I, I guess tell me a bit about it first, because I want to hear from your own words before I kind of ask questions.
So Moxie is uh kind of all in one tabletop system and setting and everything. Uh the the rules themselves are made to be very simple. I kind of designed the game to be as easy as possible for people to pick up. I've taught people how to play it in like 10 minutes and it goes pretty smoothly. With the setting itself, it's set about 200 years in the future. It's kind of an anti-capitalism space piracy sort of game. It takes a lot of inspiration from things like Alien and Star Trek, like aesthetics wise. Um, but yeah, I don't know how specific I should get here.
No, I mean, yeah, that's definitely good. Now, I am really curious because I mean, I don't think this is physically possible based on the age that you profess on your Twitter account. The September 1993 header, is that just like aesthetic, or is that based on something? Uh,
That,
yeah,
that is very much aesthetic.
I
Uh,
like that.
so a lot of the things I do, like with scenes I sell and specifically Moxie, is I really like the aesthetic of 90s fanzines and
Mhm.
early like D&D self-published things like that, where they're all black and white and you can tell that someone like hand stapled them together and that kind of thing. Um, so that's kind of the aesthetic I went for. Sometimes when I sell physical copies at conventions, I include floppy disks with extra content on them. Uh, and
Love
I
that.
signed up for an AOL email address to make it seem more authentic. Just that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think I should probably mention before like we get too deep into this, because like last time with Piper, I was like, here's Piper's itch, here's Piper's X, here's Piper's Y, here's Piper's Z. I think my sense from you is that you don't necessarily want everyone to have full access to your stuff, right?
Um, well, if you find me on Twitter and you message me, I'll probably just send you a copy of it.
Yeah. You gotta there's a little bit of legwork.
Yeah.
There's also an
But
AOL for for Moxie RPG, which I love.
that is true. I have received exactly one email to it.
Yeah. Speaking of emails, by the way, just a reminder, you can send in questions to darlingdemoneclipse@gmail.com for the third act of the show. Um, yeah, I think that's really cool. I really I have like I have a lot of respect for like digging deep into an aesthetic and like playing with it, and I really did like the first thing I noticed was like, oh, this is some like slash positive OSR shit. uh,
Yeah. Um,
OSR but good.
yeah. So I do play a lot of first edition D&D.
Mhm.
I really like exploring the very early tabletop RPG history, and just as a system, I prefer AD&D to things like fifth edition and stuff like that. So it is very much inspired by that sort of thing. So it's not an insult, but also the people that like Moxie, I very much want to not be like the people that like OSR.
Yeah, that makes sense. Um, what I guess what appeals to? I mean, I know this is a bit of a hard question because like, why does anyone like anything? But, like, if you had to kind of put a put a stamp on it, like, what do you think appeals to you about this style of game and like D&D 1E in particular?
Huh? So I'm kind of the forever DM, like in all the groups I've been in, which I really don't mind at this point. I like the GM to have a lot of freedom with what they're doing.
Hmm.
And I like the players to have a lot of wiggle room in like flavor text for their characters, but for the stats to be very defined and easy to understand. Um,
Yeah,
Although that is getting like super specific, but I like a lot of flexibility in the system that I do and openness to just kind of throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks.
yeah. Uh, I agree. I mean, the thing about uh I have another friend, Wendy Ribston. I don't know if you know her. Who does like a lot of OSR style RPGs. And, and I think that like one of the things that I've come to identify in myself from like being around folks who are into more uh I shouldn't, because OSR is such a loaded term. Like classic style games. Um
Mm.
I found that like in my own work and like my own tastes, I kind of do have some like classic tendencies, or I'm like, I mean, I guess, I mean, a really good example is I don't know how much you keep up with Sapphic World, but I added a thing recently where it's like you have spells that are just a name, and then you like interpret what they do, which is a very classic like D&D ish type thing, where it's like you have a thing and you decide how you utilize it. Um, Even though I do also have some like story game tendencies, so I love I love games is my thing personally. Um, but yeah, I think that's a really cool and kind of iconoclastic and eclectic taste to have, which I really respect you for. I think it's very cool.
Thank you.
Um, yeah, and I think the way that you bring it out in Moxie is very cool. I think anyone who's curious about this game should definitely give you a ring because it's very neat. Um,
I'm looking at my Twitter right now and seeing like, oh, people might follow me from this. What are they gonna see? And one of the first things on my page is a GIF that I made of that one Kevin James image. Uh, So like I do post about my tabletop RPG, but you also have to accept that there's going to be some Kevin James in there.
That's the power. That's the posters play. How do I download GIFs off of Twitter? Because I want to put it on the stream. I don't know how I can do that. I might not be able to.
I can send it to you on Discord.
Yes, that'd be awesome. It's a really good GIF. It's a kind of awesome GIF. You've made a. You've also you made a fucked up black and white one.
I
Actually,
did.
I can just show it on. Hang on, I can do it. I can do a screen share. Should just do that here. So you got Kevin James looking at you, and you got Dark Kevin. You got Dark Kevin. Um, fucked up. You love to see it. Cool. Let me see what else I want to talk about here. Okay, we're only 15 minutes in. uh, it's like that. So, oh wait, hang on. I didn't do any of the like preamble. Get these birds out of here. Be gone. Be gone. Only Entrero. Entrero's gonna fly in. We're doing this the right way. Hang on. There we go. Entrero's here. But the interview can officially start. Um. So, let me see here. I guess like besides your own games, like what sort of besides your own games in D&D 1e, what sorts of games are you into these days?
I really like Monster of the Week.
Hmm.
The Powered by the Apocalypse system is really fun to DM with. It's very like cinematic, which is an interesting adjective to use for a tabletop game, but it fits.
Yeah.
Um, I've been reading through a lot of the Troika material lately,
Oh,
which is
Trek is
really
interesting.
interesting. But I haven't gotten to DM for it yet.
Yeah. Um. I really like MOTW. I think it's a really good like uh bread and butter style like PBTA.
Hmm.
Um. And I've had some like pretty solid campaigns in that. Troika seems really interesting. Every time I read it, I'm like, yo, this has some really evocative shit. But also, like, I know there's some discourse around Troika that I don't know. I don't know enough about to like.
Oh, is there?
I don't know. It might just be. I don't think it involves the text. I think it's just the people. So it
Huh.
doesn't. It
Okay.
doesn't really matter. If anyone knows, like, I don't know. I know there's some fucking Twitter like beef about a certain type of like troika guy, but I don't I don't know enough to even really be saying this, but that's how it goes. Um but yeah,
Huh.
troika is
Yeah,
weird to
I'll
me.
I'll have to look into that. But yeah,
Okay.
Troika's really neat, but like I can't imagine trying to teach my players how to play it,
Yeah,
you
it
know?
seems complicated. It does seem neat
Uh,
though. Like it's got some cool ideas and like aesthetics and stuff. It's like living in the fucking what's the thief and the cobbler film, or
yeah, it,
like double king film.
in an interesting way, it reminds me a lot of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy,
Yeah, definitely.
where it's extremely nonsensical, but that's kind of the point of it.
Yeah, well, the problem all started when Paris abducted Helen of Troika, according to authentic wine fable. uh
Mm.
Thank you. That game's also got so many fucking supplements, which is
Oh yeah.
awesome.
I'm in the Discord server for Spear Witch, if you know what that is.
uh Sphere Witch.
Uh, so Spear Witch is a website that specializes in selling indie tabletop RPGs. They have
Okay.
like a super wide selection of zine style stuff, including mine, which is pretty neat.
Hell yeah.
Uh, But yeah, they have just so many of these like tiny games that are really interestingly made, like Raccoon Sky Bandits or whatever it's called, and just things like that.
I've
And
never heard
in
of
there,
this.
there's a lot of people that make their Troika expansions and whatnot, and it's pretty neat.
Looks sick. Uh,
Mm.
with some troikas. Yeah, a lot of troikas.
Yeah.
Plenty of troikas. Um, so you said I can find your stuff. Here we go.
Uh, yep. It's the old orange cover Moxie.
Yeah, if you want to get physical of Moxie, here you go.
Yep.
Um,
You can get them there and on my Etsy. Should be around the same price at both places. Um,
zines are fun.
they are. Any copy you get of Moxie has been hand printed and stapled by me, just
Damn,
because I can't. It costs a lot of money. Have someone else do it. So.
swaggy. Um, I what was I gonna say about about zines? Um, I've wanted to get into zine making at some point. I feel like that would be a fun endeavor. But it is very cool that you like hand staple yours. Like that's such a cool. I don't know. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Love that for you. Um, are there any upcoming games or projects by other folks that you're excited about?
Um, trying to think of one, but off the top of my head, there isn't much.
That's fair.
I've been
Sometimes, yeah.
extremely wary of Kickstarters lately.
Hmm.
So any Kickstarters for new games, even if they seem interesting, I can't really justify it to myself.
Yeah. Me and I mean, I kind of instigated this conversation more than Piper last week, but we were kind of talking about how um there's a thread in an understandable thread in like Kickstarter RPGs these days where it's like uh the pitch is kind of made before the game in a lot of cases where it's like,
Hmm.
you know, this is a I'm trying to think of something that's not close to something that's currently out to not make people mad at me. uh this is a uh cyberpunk fishing TTRPG,
Hmm.
and it's like it comes out in a month. Like, oh yeah, they're still doing playtesting for that. They still don't have the action economy down for like how many lines you can cast per turn. Um, and I get why it's like that, but I also like, as someone who hasn't had like a really big successful project, it, and who also like pays for Kickstarters pretty often, every once in a while, it is a little disconcerting to
Hmm.
have, yeah. And not to mention, I imagine you're like the ones that actually fail are the really concerning ones. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
my money went nowhere.
Um, not to bring everything back to Dice, but I have invested in a couple of Dice Kickstarters where either it just never came out. Like people were warning the person running the Kickstarter, like, "Hey, this isn't gonna work at your price," and then they don't listen, and then it never comes out. Or Kickstarters where I've invested in it, and then I find out afterwards, after everything's shipped and everything, like, oh, the person or company that did this really isn't great, and maybe I shouldn't be supporting them.
Yeah,
So it's that kind of thing where, like, it just makes me very uneasy.
that's understandable. Can I get your opinion on some dice?
Yes.
So this is one of the news stories last week. Which is that they're doing a Final Fantasy 14 TTRPG. Um,
Hmm.
and the dice for it are interesting. I don't know if you can see these very well, but
Oh.
they're white,
Huh.
black, blue, red, green, and they're like semi-transparent with a uh like FF14 like Eclipse like MSQ symbol
Hmm.
for the 20. I'm like split on these because on the one hand they're like not very special for being for like a specific game, but on the other hand the gimmick of like tank healer 2 DPSs for the dice is really fun.
Hmm.
Um what do you think about them as a dice connoisseur?
So I guess this is where some of my dice snobbery comes through.
Yeah,
Uh, so these are definitely a 3D render. There's no way that these are actual photos of dice,
right.
at least from what I can see. I can guarantee that when they come out, they will be very cheap looking, rounded, transparent D20s with the logo engraved like that. They're probably going to purchase them from HD Dice, which is a Chinese dice manufacturer, which makes really high quality stuff, but they also tend to do these custom sets that are really lackluster for games like this.
Huh. Interesting.
Or they will pay for Q Workshop to do a custom set. I know the Moomin RPG did that, and Q Workshop does nicer stuff, but also they make Harry Potter dice and delete comments on their
Hmm.
posts criticizing them for it. So that's
Cringe.
fun. Uh, but overall, they're inoffensive, I guess.
Fair enough. Uh yeah, it does seem unlikely that they would have the like engraved edges on yeah. Especially at the price point 59.99 for like this. I don't think that's
Yeah,
gonna happen. Um
yeah. These are just going to be standard D20s where they've engraved the logo on it and not much else.
yeah. There's a Moomin RPG, by the way, as
Uh,
Wimes asks.
I believe there is. I've seen the Moomin sets roaming around and they look really cute, and I wanted to get them before the Q Workshop stuff happened. Um, I believe there is.
Neat. Uh I'm looking for, is it a board game?
It it might be. Sorry, one
Because
second.
I'm seeing this. I'm seeing Stegagets Moomin board game.
I believe it. Maybe they just made the dice for
Oh,
it. Weird. I saw the dice like officially licensed and everything, and I guess I kind of assumed.
yeah. Also very funny. Uh, you look up Moomin RPG and you get one of the first Wander Home articles, which is very funny. Uh, I was wondering if anyone has a link to a homebrewed Moomin RPG. Uh,
Hmm.
I could do a whole episode of just browsing Reddit because like there's some truly unhinged stuff on there. Um,
I go at all lengths to avoid Reddit if I can.
yeah, it's pretty
It scares
bad.
me.
It is funny though.
Yeah.
Um, so uh, bu- 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 um, are there any like trends broadly in like RPGs that you're excited about?
Yeah, I really like the trends of games starting to be simplified a bit more.
Hmm.
I think in the 90s and the 2000s, there was this big thing where suddenly every tabletop game was over-engineered. There were like 30 skills and stats and everything. like every time I tried reading the Cyberpunk rule books, it, I, it's just a blank wall to me.
Yeah,
Uh, and specifically with fifth edition, like I know a lot of people that love fifth edition, but it's just too over engineered for me. Like you don't need to have a rule for every single thing that can happen in a game, I guess is my point. But
big
uh,
agree.
I'm really liking the trend of all of these indie RPGs that have started simplifying things down. Um, only requiring like a few dice for it, which, I guess is hypocritical of me to say. Uh, but I like the trend of RPGs being a lot more accessible for new players.
I very much agree. And I definitely like I feel similar about like I think like there's a whole swath of RPGs, a huge number and like history of RPGs that I just cannot get into because they're so fucking dense and have so many skills. Uh, I know Jewish. Immediately when you said cyberpunk, I was like, oh god, Jewish Cthulhu, my friend Lilith, who I should have on one of these days, has a lot of opinions on that. She was telling me about how like half the book for Cyberpunk Red is like uh uh all right, Shum, I gotta tell you how you get your chrome uh in you so you don't become a gonk before I delta out of here. And then like it's like chapter 33, leveling up.
Yeah, and a lot of those early tabletop RPGs, especially if you see the ones that like TSR or FASA made for specific properties,
Hmm.
like the Doctor Who RPG or the
Star Trek.
original Star Trek or Indiana Jones ones
Oh god.
specifically, those like the rules seem like they're out of order.
Yeah.
Um, a big trend in those early ones are just like they start with lore and then character creation like halfway through, and then how to play, and then more character creation. And you end up needing like a glossary to actually even begin to learn how to play the game.
Yeah. I love a well organized book. That it's so important. It's something that I've had to learn because like I have a tendency to be a bit scatterbrained with my shit. Uh
Mhm.
but yeah, it is really important to like organize your books. And I is there just like a different class of designer who gets brought on to make these sorts of games? Like I don't know. I feel like indie RPG devs are like so much better at dealing with this shit, and then you just have like these huge overblown like the D&D 5e Dark Souls book that like if you played as a
Oh
knight
God,
you
yeah.
couldn't move because your armor was too heavy. Um like I think there is like a not even a there's like a professional designer class that like I don't think we ever like really hear from, but they have so much power and like are
Mhm.
presumably raking in the big bucks. Not to
The
be conspiracy ish here.
the way that I think it has gone is that there's like certain designers that are certain types of players for RPGs, you know?
Right.
Like the ones that make these overcomplicated things, I think those are the kind of players that are constantly being rules lawyers. They only play to like level up their character, they're doing a lot of metagaming, that sort of thing. Um, Whereas people like me, I think that party comp is a myth, and I don't care as long as people actually enjoy the experience.
So
You know?
true. I agree. Yeah. Like I really I very much agree about party comp. I think that like more games should be open to a party that is similar. Unless like but party comp is tricky because like I think for certain games I don't want party comp to be a concern. But I do also like when a game is like these are the playbooks and they're like they're like kind of distinct characters in their own right. Um
Hmm.
it's kind of a it kind of depends, but I think broadly the idea of like party party uh yeah yeah I think the idea of like party makeup is bullshit generally.
Yeah, and it's one of those holdovers from the early like dungeon crawl eras of D&D specifically, I think, where back then like if you didn't do party comp, your cleric only has 1d4 of health. Like you can't really do much. Uh, but now that I think things have started being less class based and more like player based and strategy wise, I guess, it's stopped being as relevant.
Yeah, it's more about like who you want to be. uh and like what your character is good at. uh and I feel like a lot of the time there's like less of a there's less of like a separated out like palette of things that you can do in a game, which is good. uh
Mm,
less big lists of skills, as you said.
yeah.
um yeah. Tell me a little bit about your avatar here, because I am kind of curious about this little character.
Uh, so this is a robot that I 3D modeled a few months back. It's it was based off of a 1980s like wood grain alarm clock with the radio and everything. And I had the thought of like, what if someone wanted to make that into its own little robot? So I added a 5-inch floppy drive to the bottom. I actually have like a full cutaway s- somewhere where you can see circuit boards and stuff inside.
Yo, that
Uh,
rules.
and it's just kind of like my concept for what a little like personal helper robot would have looked like in the or if they were made in the 80s.
Cute. I love that. It's a it's a
Like,
it's a very good little guy, little goober. Uh, Hive Indicator says, I don't trust anyone whose ancestor claimed to smith pawns, like categorically. Talking about Mike Pondsmith, the creator of Cyberpunk. I agree. um,
yeah,
I've been playing Cyberpunk 2077, which is interesting. Uh, it's a bit of a mess, but I am enjoying it,
my
despite.
girlfriend plays that constantly, so everything I know about the game is kind of tangential.
Yeah.
But I really like some of the aesthetics of it. But overall, I'm just not much of a video gamer. So,
What 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 RPGs would you like to see as a video game, if any?
ah, that's tricky because I really just don't play many video games.
Yeah.
Um, I really wish that they adapted parts of the early Star Trek RPGs into a video game.
Ooh, yeah, that's fun.
There's a lot of really weird lore back then, and like the design of the ships gets really funky. And I kind of wish that overall they paid more attention to that. Uh, but other than that, nothing really comes to mind.
Yeah. The only pondsmith I trust is the Lady of the Lake. That's so true. I think I would want. I don't know how you would do it, but I feel like you can make a pretty good Blades in the Dark like CRPG.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
like as long as you, I feel like you would have to. It would have to be like very focused on like one district of Duskfall and have like one specific crew that you play. Um, but I think you could do it. I think that could be fun. Like a turn-based. Well, I don't know if I would want it to be turn-based. I don't know. That's kind of the challenge with like a narrative RPG is you kind of have to fuck with the system a bit to make it work. Unless it was
yeah.
more of like a Disco Elysium, you could probably square it. It's.
Oh, there's also this really early TSR RPG, which is kind of just a reskinned version of first edition D&D, called Gamma World.
Hmm.
And it's this really neat post-apocalyptic game where like you roll for the mutations that your player characters have and
Yeah,
things like that. And it gets really interesting, and there's a lot of very dense lore, but I haven't really looked into it past like the first box set version of it. And I feel like that can make a really interesting game.
the first box set has a really good uh picture on it. I can't find a high res version of it, but it is really good. I'll
Oh,
just put it up on stream.
the art for it is gorgeous. It's that like early TSR art where everything is made by hand.
Yeah, it's really neat.
Um, Although I think that might be the second edition set that you're looking at.
Oh, okay. Still, it is.
Uh,
I still love this guy on the horse being shot at by uh hobgoblins or something. It's
um,
awesome.
yeah, the first version.
See if I can find it. that it?
Yep, there you go.
Nice. I also like this one. Bunch of little fucking guys going into an abandoned city.
Hmm.
Um, games are the same in some ways. Not much has changed. Like people are still making. I mean, my friend again Lilith, who just mentioned Euphoria. Euphoria is her like really great a post-apocalyptic RPG, which I really like, and it also has you rolling for mutations. Games are the same. Uh, the box you have has a funky toy robot tank guy. Hell yeah. There have been 7 editions of Gamma World,
Yeah,
more editions than D&D. What's your major malfunction, D&D? What's your problem?
I think Gamma World has gone through more like copyright owners than D&D for sure.
Right.
So they probably just made a new edition whenever it switched hands or whatever.
That would
Uh,
probably do it. Um.
I,
Oh, sorry. Go.
oh, uh, I also wish that Star Frontiers got a bit more attention, but unfortunately, the only attention it's gotten lately has been from the Ernie Gygax TSR a couple of years ago, so I don't think we'll ever see anything.
Yeah, it's a shame that all these great old games are in like the. I mean, I don't know about great. These old games,
Yeah.
uh, mixed old games. Here's Star Frontiers. Um, are in the hands of these just like fucking chuds. Um, these grognards.
Hmm.
Um, actually, I want to recommend someone. If people like that sort of art style, I cannot recommend enough Hodag RPGs on Twitter. And also Instagram. Actually, they'd probably prefer if I gave their Instagram. Uh, or sorry, Hodag RPG. Um, Hodag's really cool. And has done some very neat stuff. In that like old kind of hand drawn aesthetic. They have some. I think they have some art in Yuzeba's Bed and Breakfast that's like really fun. Um, yeah, but sorry, I'm very congested today. Uh, so I think what else? What else do I want to ask you about? Um, I guess do you have any like kind of long term big goals with your work?
Well, my next big step is I really want to make an actual box set for Moxie.
Ooh,
The rule book that's currently out is pretty basic. There's a lot of the lore and basic rules, but it's missing like purchasing tables and ship combat, which has been a huge obstacle to overcome with actually designing.
yeah.
Um, so my next step is I really want to put together a full box set. I already have the packaging and stuff in mind before I finish writing it, because of course that's how it works. Um, I really want the packaging to be old VHS cases,
Oh, that's fun.
because I found out you can buy like 100 of them for $80 on eBay. So might as well. It's cheaper than cardboard, weirdly enough.
Damn, that sounds really cool.
Nice.
Yeah. Um, I think that like you could probably get a solid like I feel like because you have a low. I think the fact that this I imagine this doesn't require you that much. The current edition doesn't require that much for you to make, right? Like monetarily.
Oh no, I think each edition is probably 25 cents to 50 cents to print.
Nice.
Uh, yeah, or each issue.
Yeah.
Uh, but once it gets to the box sets, then I think I'll be spending around $10 in materials for each one, maybe a bit less, bit more.
So
So that's also another obstacle that I'm gonna need to try and figure out.
yeah. Um, I think that box sets are like kind of a not necessarily a rarity, but like I think it's kind of hard for like to immediately go into a box set but I think because you've made this like such a kind of uh like not simple but lo-fi
No, it is
vibe.
for sure simple.
Yeah, I think that that'll definitely help with that. Um, Do you have anything that we haven't talked about that you'd like to talk about?
Um, I probably do, but I can't think of anything.
That's fair. Um, Let me think. Bu- 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 I think that's. I think we can probably move on to our next section. We can move on to the
Yeah.
news. We have some. We have one really light one and one and two that are like uh a tangled web of intrigue and lies. Um, Not really lies, but intrigue for sure.
Hmm.
So let's get started on those. Let me we need to call in our next bird, uh, Cortus, the news bird, who is coming in from the battlefield of TTRPG news to give us the most important updates and scoops. Phew. There's Cortus. So our first story for October 2nd, 2023, is the this is actually technically not a TTRPG story. It's a tabletop role. Sorry, a tabletop games story. However, I thought it was relevant and interesting. Oh god, my computer's already lagging from all these websites. Uh,
Hmm.
Stop with the scripts. Stop with the automatic video players on your websites, please. The ads. Um, but yeah, we're gonna be focusing on uh the terraforming Mars AI art and weird racism stuff, which is a multi-layered situation. Um, so I should probably have some multiple tabs for this or multiple windows just so I can swap between stuff. Um, so for those who are completely unaware of what this is about, Fricks Games is a uh um here we'll start here. Fricks Games is a tabletop games developer, um, creators of the popular Terraforming Mars um, RPG, not RPG, tabletop game, uh, which is a like kind of 4X style strategy terraforming game. And there was a recent controversy wherein it became clear that the More Terraforming Mars Kickstarter campaign was, which is here, was going to be using artificial intelligence art. Um, this is a game with a $10,000 goal, which made $2,222,000.
Oh
Um,
God.
Now, if you look, this is so obviously AI, right? Like the pieces on these. Actually, is this? Sorry, this. I think this is AI. I'm fairly certain this is AI. Yeah, this definitely reads AI to me
Yeah, I think so too.
because these would be consistent outfits if it weren't. Uh, so yeah, you have this is probably also AI on the bottom here. Yeah, like you can see kind of the weird like blurry details and the kind of lack of symmetry in a lot of these parts. Um, so off the jump, very obviously AI art. Um, and this is a successful expansion, or an expansion to a successful game. By a broadly successful indie game company, Fricks Games, race publisher. The actual developers are Stronghold Games. Um,
Hmm.
and in this Polygon article, as this Kickstarter passes 1.3 million, publisher defends terraforming Mars generative AI art. It's too powerful technology. Um, Someone from the studio, Travis Worthington, defended the thing. Um, and then this happened. Uh, and then the the biggest I think thing to extract from this is in this Gizmodo article. Um, so uh, the thing that uh actually this might be a different thing. Sorry, this was about a Facebook post. this whole thing's kind of boring. It's just Travis Worthington just defending using AI, um, and being annoying. There was like a Twitter thread about this at some point, but I don't know where it is. But yeah, him just being very cagey about it. Um, asked about AI stuff. Just I have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know the consequences of this. I don't care, and I refuse to take any accountability for it. Is basically the bottom line. And then he did this Facebook video, and the big pull quote from it. Uh, Hang on, let me. Frixelius mentioned in the next game, a cooperative Viking game called Fates has art by a Western illustrator, emphasizing that the company spared no expense in making sure it was paying a living wage to the people in charge of those drawings. We had paid tens of thousands of dollars to have those illustrations made, and not even by some East European illustrator or Asian illustrator, but actually by Western. Someone living in the Western world will be doing all the illustrations. That is crazy expensive. The way he mentions Asian Eastern European artists feels very odd. It would not have been my choice of words. This illustrator is also his sister, so that might have impacted why he was encouraged to pay her a decent rate.
It's defending nepotism with racism,
Yeah, awesome. Calls AI art too powerful not to use. They were defending it. And you can find these articles and read all of them. It's
it's a mess.
It's a mess. So what's amazing is the Polygon article came out when they were at 1.3 million, and then people proceeded to pump in what is that? So $900,000 into this Kickstarter.
If you're getting millions of dollars, you can afford to pay an artist. Like, doing all of this as cheaply as possible, I can't imagine that gives the backers any amount of I guess trust in them,
Yeah. I can excuse racism, but I draw the line at nepotism. I personally draw the line at both. I mean, some people just don't care about AI. Yeah, I personally don't like it. I also think it's I think that you can take it from a hypothetical view of oh, all things even, I can decide not to play your game if you have AI art. But the reality is if most people don't care, or some people, even if some people don't care, then you have the problem of all these other great Kickstarters and campaigns that are, using actual human art versus this lazy bullshit, and this is making millions of dollars. It sucks. It's so frustrating.
Yeah.
So obviously this is a tabletop game. I wanted to focus on how this might impact TTRPGs, how it already has impacted TTRPGs. I think that this is a very dark sign for I mean, I think it's already happening in D&D 5e, from my understanding. My sense is that D&D 5e is already kind of gripped by this shit.
From what I've heard, they had AI art appear in one of the miscellaneous books that they released for 5th edition. It wasn't one of the base rule book sort of things. I think it was just one of the random stories or books about the universe. And I believe Wizards of the Coast made an apology for it, right?
Yeah, so there was this Bigby Presents Glory of the Giants, which was a main D&D 5e book.
Oh, it was. Oh.
Yeah, so the artist Ilya Shipkin, Shkipin, there's recent controversy on whether these illustrations I made were AI generated. Yeah, so very clearly, I mean, if you look at, I think this one in particular, yeah. the axe is fucked up, the wolf looks wrong. It's over detailed, but none of the details really hold muster when you look at them. Mm-hmm. There's this whole thing. but the original art looks really good. Is the thing too. Like they actually kind of fucked up their own art by like putting it through AI.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. Yeah, so the team was not aware of Skippen's use of AI at first, and then they updated their guidelines, but I don't know if it ever got removed. Um,
Mhm.
but I think like broadly, like if I look up like, I mean, if I go and drive through RPG right now, I'm probably gonna see some AI art on the cover.
Yeah.
On the front page. Uh, let's see. What about new? I don't know if I can search by new because that would probably be the best place to see it. Uh, no, I forgot that drive through RPG is kind of in the kind of in the 2000s. Here we go. Newest community content. So like, let's see. This, I gotta get a better look at this. It looks like
Mhm.
AI because I think it's trying to mimic like a Dark Souls bonfire, but there's nothing
Yeah.
there. Um, so yeah, like there is broadly there's a market for D&D 5e. Maybe not a market. I mean, they're making it, which makes me think there's probably a market for it. Uh, Let me look at the face. Yeah, see, that face isn't real.
Yeah.
uh, the the kites like that. What is that? um,
Mhm.
so it's already here. But I don't think it's in like indie games yet. Thank God. Um,
My main concern when it comes to AI for tabletop RPGs is people are going to start using it for like writing, and
yeah,
I think that's going to have a much more detrimental effect. Uh, like the art thing is awful, and but also AI art just kind of looks like garbage anyway.
right.
I doubt that Wizards of the Coast would use an AI generated cover for one of their books, you know.
Yeah, I highly doubt that. Um,
But I can totally see one of the writers using it to like work on blurbs for NPCs or things like that, because like that's a lot harder to distinguish, and that's a lot easier for them to do. So that part actually concerns me a lot more. Um, like I recently played in a fifth edition campaign where the DM used AI to generate like riddles and stuff for us to do, and it was just the least interesting possible way to do it.
yeah, I have never had a I the people that I play games around are like so artistically minded and like so like like I play games with game designers mostly. Um
Mhm.
so that's not really a problem for me, but I'm like it is scary to think that like oh yeah, if you go into like the average D&D campaign, if you go into like Alpha G or LFG, uh you might find someone doing like a fucking horrible AI puzzle. That is really
Yeah,
scary and exhausting. um
yeah. I quickly stopped playing in that campaign. It was just, I could play D&D with Chat GPT at that point, you know.
yeah, that's kind of the issue. Um, I what was I gonna say about AI writing? Um, oh yeah, the other thing about AI writing is that like the problem is that I don't know if you could even tell with D&D 5e because it's like so badly written. uh, like if you've ever like looked, D&D 5e is fascinating because it has a sheen over it. It's like a it's like in a cyberpunk setting where it's like oh yo that guy's got like ice thicker than steel, like you can't even see his face. uh that's what that's what D&D 5e is like when you try and read it. It's like oh, like people didn't actually read this, did they?
it is extremely stylistically written in a point where I don't think they can even consider writing it in a way that's different than how it is, if that
Yeah,
makes sense.
it's like so surgical in like a weird
Y-
way.
Yeah, it's kind of like how you see those uh when there's an animated TV show, they draw up like a rule book for how certain characters are drawn and everything.
Yeah,
But always there's like cases where there can be an exemption. It's kind of like they made a rule book like that for the writers of D&D, and they absolutely cannot go beyond it.
yeah. I also feel like there's like a lot of stuff in the books that's like there because it has to be. There's a lot of paragraphs that are just um like header, uh adventures in a tavern. In a tavern, you might encounter an angry barman or
Mm.
uh or a new adventure given by a mysterious wizard. Get creative with your players and come up with exciting adventures for your players to enjoy. And that'll be like the like that's an exaggeration, but it's like that.
No,
Uh,
yeah.
King of the Hill
Uh,
drawing rulebook? Oh yeah. That's yeah.
mhm.
Uh-huh. True.
There's um that's part of the reason I really like early D&D and things like that, because first of all, like, just to get out of the way, they are extremely flawed. There are a lot of things, particularly in the first edition D&D thing, where it's like, oh, women can't be as strong as male characters,
Uh,
or certain races can't be as smart, or things that are really, really awful. Which, of course, I like make a point to ignore every time I play it. But when you get to the actual like lore and everything, every writer uses a different way to write it, so you can actually tell when it's like, oh, this part was made by Frank Menser, or this part was Moldway, or that kind of thing. And there's a lot more flavor in the early D&D stuff than we have now.
yeah. It's man.
Yeah.
It's wild to think that like some things stay the same, some things change, but also like there's so much that gets forgotten. Like I've thought about this so much, especially since with like with Yazeba's coming out, like having modern indie RPGs that are doing like troop play. Um it's wild to think that like so much gets forgotten about like the positive qualities of like older TTRPGs. Um but also they're the people who say they're remembering that stuff always lean into the worst shit. They're always leaning into the
Yeah.
sexist, racist nonsense.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Um how about because we are talking about D&D, how about we take a how about we take 5 or 10 and then we hit the next story about the fucking cozy Studio Ghibli inspired D&D 5e supplement.
Okay, that sounds good.
Hell yeah. Let's take 10. I want to rest my throat a little bit, get some water in me.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Hell yeah. All right, we will be right back in 10 minutes. See you in a bit.
Yep.
have a heart of gold. Don't let them take it from you.
Hello, we are back with more news. This is less news. I mean, it is news. It's a big publication, Wired, has posted an article about D&D last week, the September 23rd, and we're gonna read through the whole thing. 'Cause it's very short, and that's not it. It's very short, and there's a lot to say about it. A lot to say. Also ignore that. I didn't just pull up. I didn't just pull up Cozy Town. You didn't see that. I don't have opinions on other games that I'm relating this to. It's a little old. That's true. I mean, the reality is I do this weekly, so I can't be right on the money, time wise. But it was, well, I guess technically it was before the discourse about it started after the last episode, which makes it, it's news. So yeah, I'm gonna give this a read through. It's by Lawrence Russell. I should be clear, be nice. Like, this is not, we're focused on the article here. I'm just noting that that's the person who wrote it. Finally, a cozy Studio Ghibli-inspired way to play Dungeons & Dragons. Real life is dark enough. Obojima lets players swap the sword for a soft, fantastical tabletop adventure. A new... God, why do I have to look at one of the Critical Role guys? I mean... Okay, it's just gonna zoom in more on his face. Alright, that's fine. A new Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition 5e campaign setting has launched through Kickstarter and aims to bring the aesthetics of Studio Ghibli, The Legend of Zelda, and Adventure Time into the world of tabletop role-playing. Obojima brings a calming, wholesome milieu to a game that increasingly appeals to demographics in dire need of it. Growing up, Ocarina of Time and Princess Mononoke completely obsessed me, Jeremiah Crofton, creative director and founder of 1985 Games, tells Wired. None of that childlike wonder has faded with time, so when 1985 Games started thinking about creating its own D&D campaign setting, tying all these influences into what would eventually become Obojima came naturally. The wild and wonderful world of Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition supplements is a deep dive of tabletop nostalgia and memes, often fascinating and provocative. Beyond the one-to-one recreations of older D&D mechanics and power fantasies, passionate homebrew creators work at the bleeding edge of tabletop game development. I need to rate it. I'm going to rate it straight, and we're going to go back because I cannot get into this right now. Dreaming up the future of how we imagine and engage with living narratives, Obojima is a delightful jewel in that trove. A world beyond the tall grass, D&D is becoming softer, as the IRL world we grow into becomes harder to make sense of, and the fiendish grimdark analogs that dominated science fiction and fantasy over the 90s fade from favor. It's easy to see that nerd cultures are becoming kinder and more mindful. Entire tracts of gruesome Forgotten Realms lore has been identified in Wizards of the Coast as incompatible with modern tastes. The average person faces their own unique set of struggles and obstacles every week. Crofton muses. Throw in a few soul-crushing news items and something hateful online, and you can imagine how an immersive character fantasy like D&D becomes an outlet for escape from that energy. Today, the Found Family Trip is its foot on the neck of tabletop roleplay podcasts, the de facto canonization of how tabletop play is supposed to be. It's getting harder for developers to find a place for evil alignments. It's as if the zeitgeist of millennial and Gen Z thought has manifested nicer stories as a collective psychological self-defense to their circumstances. These days, your average serial atrocity campaign about how, deep down, everyone is deeply awful and it's naive to think otherwise just doesn't rate as profoundly as it did in 1992. RPGs can be dark in tone, Crofton says. I think I've seen too many grimdark, hyper-realistic fantasy games out there, even today, which is why I think we're finding success. People seem to be excited to see more playful, lighthearted content, and there's just not much out there in these circles. Why Obojima is boldly different. Obojima enables a more cozy, fulfilling story that makes room for whimsy while juggling the kind of enriching and fantastical awe that Dungeons & Dragons always aim to inspire. There's a lot to love in Obojima, Crofton says. Creatively, I have had the most fun I've ever had working on this project. One bit of lore I've really taken a liking to is the abandoned vending machines left all around the island. Although there is no electricity to power them on, clever traveling wizards have figured out how to get them running through special types of enchantments. Because of this, adventurers can now find their favorite potion or magical trinket on the side of the road. It's so fun, and I think it's one of those pleasant little touches that encapsulate the vibe of Obojima. Straight right through. 1985 Games went out of their way to highlight their inspirations because they felt they found a way to organically intersect their aesthetics. Zelda has a quiet love affair with lonely, bittersweet heroism. Studio Ghibli won't stop drawing out the peerless wonder of the natural world and how humble it makes the soul. Adventure Time couldn't resist invoking deeply existential metaphysical concepts through a childlike lens. The spirits of all three of these works were present as we brought Obojima to life, Crofton said. Adventurers who take the time to explore and question things here will find our nods to these inspirations. There are no other pieces of media that make me want to explore the world as much as these three. They make me want to leave no stone unturned, and I hope I can bring that same feeling to everyone who decides to play in the world of Obojima. Crofton explained that though the team had a clear direction, Obojima was built for GMs and storytellers to create their own unique stories. We want them to decide which themes are important to the story they're trying to tell. We've built the world, we want other people to find themselves in it. Crofton confirmed that, given the success of the Kickstarter, the future of Obojima had been discussed at 1985 Games, with ideas about follow-up books already circulating. The prospect of comics and animated shorts are even being explored, with Obojima keeping their hands full for the time being. Crofton promised 1985 will be announcing some exciting things in 2024. So, where do we even start here? Yeah.
I don't hate it.
Yeah? I want to hear your opinion.
I think it looks kinda neat, but also like something feels off here. Like the vibes altogether being like, man, people need something cozy and everything. Like something just feels off to me, and I can't really put my finger on what it is.
Yeah. Um, I'm reading the chat really quick. Vending machines for additional adventure. All right. We just gotta go paragraph by paragraph, I think. um, I'll give my general opinion first. I agree. I think it looks, if I were still running D&D 5e, I would look at this and say, that seems like an interesting setting. And I think it'd be fun to run that. Like the Kickstarter, very colorful, very nice looking books, very like good art.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of stuff. Like the potion crafting stuff seems interesting. That's always been a mechanic that's like kind of hard to do in 5e. Um so a bunch of lore, familiar mechanics, feats, fighting styles, hero's journey boon system, like it has its own mechanics, a bunch of magic items, monsters, spells, races. Um it's a it's a very cool aesthetic. Um very very unique aesthetic. Like uh yeah. I I have a lot of respect for them trying to do something new, you know?
Yeah.
Um However, I think the more overwhelming feeling that I get is that this article, this is the sort of thing where like this would have passed me by for the most part otherwise. Um it is a it's a symptom to me of what D&D has done, where it's like the only way that a book like this can get made is if it's a D&D 5e book in some ways, or at least made to this fidelity, $2.6 million, um, which means that all of the cute and fascinating creatures that you're writing about are going to have to be killable, and thus the main half of their page is going to be how do you kill this thing, what are the mechanics for this thing fighting and killing and getting killed. Um,
Huh.
that would have been
That
my yeah.
sorry, that's a really interesting point. Yeah.
That is something. To be clear, that is not my unique opinion. I've seen people say that on Twitter, um, but so that would have been my take on it. Like it would have barely been on my radar otherwise. This article, as you said, like the vibes are really off about like the way that they're talking about their stuff, and I think I kind of want to diagnose that and explore it. Um, and I also think like I don't know. I haven't really looked much into this Jeremiah Crofton or like the team that's making this. I do feel like there's like some uh there's I get some Orientalist vibes slightly. Um yeah, from what I can tell, like this is a let me just make sure before I say anything about this. Yeah, I mean this is a white dude. This is a white dude in like a little beanie. Um
Mm-hmm.
Now I am curious because they probably have something about like um I don't know if they have anything about the writing team. I mean that's not really my thing to diagnose, right? But I do think it's a consideration. Um just kind of going through the article beat by beat. It's something that comes to mind. Um I also think that the article, like, there are two ends of it. One, I think that the things that Jeremiah Crofton is saying about the game or about the supplement is like kind of cringe, and I also think the way the article frames it is insane.
Yeah. It so wanting a like cozy and non-violent tabletop RPG experience makes a lot of sense to me,
Mhm.
and like there's definitely a place for that. but the way that they're wording it kind of feels condescending towards the people that want that,
Yeah.
I guess.
It's
Uh,
also kind of ahistorical.
yeah, I'm just again, I'm really not sure how to feel about this, um, because like the thing itself looks interesting, and the art is really good, and it looks to be well written, but it's just the vibes around how they're promoting it that seem off to me. And
Yeah,
also, of course, yes, I would prefer that it wouldn't be 5e, but you know,
it is what it
you
is.
gotta make it 5e for people to like it, I guess.
Gotta
Who
make your
knows?
money.
Yeah.
Um, what's more Yeah, that's so. Wyme's Hive. Y'all make good points. Um, the I think the big thing that I've seen online about this, which I very much agree with, is like the framing of Ghibli as cozy is like really uncomfortable. uh, all of those movies, even the ones that are like ostensibly slice of life or like more gentle, are about that they have a political element. They have a politics, right? Um, and
That is true.
I think that dismissing that like as just these are cozy movies is kind of depressing.
It
um, yeah,
it kind of reads like they know the hot topic aesthetic of Studio Ghibli. You
this is a
know,
very hot
like
topic supplement.
yeah, like they've seen like, ooh, that shirt has like the cat bus thing on it. It's all cutesy and cozy. That's the vibe we're going for. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah, I'm not sure if they've actually seen much of the things that they're basing this off of.
nothing says
Or maybe
cozy like
they
creating
have, and it's grim
fireflies.
dark inside. We don't know.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, Adventure Time, and Zelda, they do explore some darker themes, so maybe there's some more depth to it. I don't want to buy this book, but I would love if someone got it to me at some point. uh, um, liking Ghibli for the cozy vibes. As the theme energy is liking Watchmen because the superiors are cool and badass. Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that there's peace in those movies, and but I don't think that's the same thing as cozy. Um, I also think like there's so much like nostalgia, like even 1985 games is like such a name. Um,
Yeah, it kind of invokes the sort of people that tried making TSR2, and that makes me a little nervous.
yeah, true. None of that child talking about childlike wonder. Um, which yeah, it's an important thing, but it's not the only thing. Um, I hate D&D's becoming softer because like the problem is that like by making a 5e Piper and I had this conversation last week about like the Dimension 20 season that they're doing where they're playing 5e but they're kind of critiquing it by playing it. Um
Hmm.
where it's like D&D wins still. Uh D&D sets the
Thou
table.
hast journeyed far.
Hi, Clava Streams. Thank you for the raid. We're talking about uh welcome to the DOVECOTE. This is a tabletop role playing games discussion and news podcast, show, busy podcast. I don't know what we would call it. Uh, and yeah, we're currently talking about Owajima, which is a Ghibli inspired D&D 5e supplement, and we both have very mixed feelings about it. Go follow Kaleva. And yeah, thank you for the raid. But yeah, as I was saying, we were talking about this D&D is becoming softer line in this Wired article. And no matter what, you have to work within the framework of D&D, where it's a game about like engaging in like extractive violence, like extractive colonialist violence on little guys, basically. uh,
Hmm.
and so the little guys who you do extractive colonialist violence need to have like an HP amount and like an AC and attacks. Um, yeah, it's complicated, but also Very simple. Yes, D&D sets the table with a big chart of weapons and like one class feature you can use out of combat, and then says be cozy. That's the other thing about it is like D&D 5e can't be cozy because I mean, it can be. It's not going to be as cozy as a game made for coziness because it's not. When you level up, you're not being given cozy class features, right? I hope I'm not talking too much, Holly.
No, that's fine. Um, uh, so someone commented. Also, I'll admit I'm not big on D&D anymore. But when did it get softer? When did that ever happen?
Now.
And I think that just happened because of the community. I don't
Mhm.
think the actual rule books and everything ever got softer. I think it was like the things around it, like Dimension 20 or maybe the Adventure Zone, where like the the community around Dungeons and Dragons has gotten softer, and lately the game itself has started slowly catching up, and now we're seeing things like Ojima and things like that.
Yeah, I think I really agree. I think that um this is gonna sound insane, but I'm gonna give it the take. I think this article is homophobic in some ways, or at least it's erasing queer people, um, because the people who made D&D softer are not uh 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 like white guys named Jeremiah, you know?
That's true. And yeah, I guess just saying broadly, like millennials and Zoomers are
Yeah,
doing this. It's I every campaign I've ever played with straight people has been your basic dungeon crawl murder hobo game. And most campaigns I've done with queer people have been, you know, pretty chill.
yeah.
So that's a interesting framework to put on it.
I like Wyme's take on this. Undertale taught players that you can talk to the goblins instead of killing and looting, and it was all over since then. Yeah,
It, it's all Toby Fox's fault, let's be real here.
I find, I mean, honestly, like I've found over the last 10, I mean, yeah, the 10 years that I've been running games, like players are so much more considerate about whether they should be killing people when they encounter a chance to do so. Um,
Hmm.
and so, a lot to think about. um, I also cannot play TTRPGs with non-queer people. Um,
Yeah.
so I hate this bit. I hate the like. I the older that I get, the more that I think escapism is like a flawed reason to engage in art and collaborative storytelling. Um, Not necessarily a bad one, but a um not always a useful one, I guess. Like especially, I mean, I think after playing Starfield, I feel that the most where it's like I think that there should be a little bit of you should be made to think a little bit when you do a thing, you know?
Yeah.
Um
Uh, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
no, you're good. Go.
Every or most pieces of media that I've seen that have their whole like pitch be escapism, they usually end up kind of being hollow, you
Yeah.
know? Like very surface level stuff. And it, I don't know, it's kind of a perplexing look market where you're saying like, hey, there's nothing to this, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. And I also really think like um I think the thing that people like escapism and catharsis are very different things. And I think that people confuse them sometimes. Um
Hmm.
and I would much rather have catharsis than escapism, personally. Uh I think it's a more useful way to define that, which means you have to explore things that are not always the most fun to explore. But
Yeah.
this is
Uh,
actually a very apt the thing about the found family trope. This is true.
Yeah, I guess uh for the catharsis point, like I've let my players in one of my sci-fi campaigns like assassinate a robot Elon Musk.
Yes.
And it's kind of like that that feels like the way to be like, hey, here's modern issues, but also, hey, you get to kill Elon Musk.
Yeah. Uh
Or wait, this is Twitch. Am I allowed to say that?
yeah, so you get that's
Okay, cool.
fine. It's literally the in Minecraft in GTA. You framed it in that, you're good. Uh
Okay, cool.
how dare modern writers make displacing squatters and ruins political? Yeah. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. I love how there are so many people coming into the chat who I've never seen before who are just immediately dropping correct takes. That rules. Thank you. um, uh, yeah, de facto canonization of this is true. Uh, this one correct take in this article. Um, I mean, I think this is a little cringe. As I said, a lot of this is like ahistorical and like deeply ignorant of the rest of not even just like the like this is deeply ignorant of like what like Evil Hat is doing. This is ignorant of like what Possum Creek Games is doing. Like you don't need to be that involved in RPGs to know what these publishers are up to.
Mhm.
It's a little weak. RPGs can be pretty dark in tone. Which RPGs are you reading? Which ones? Recent RPGs have been very bright. Like very bright, very like inclusive. Unless you're just
Well,
reading like, Metal Fuck the Iron Sworn saga.
it's an article about D&D. You have to assume that the people that made the article about it and the people that are being interviewed about it only know what D&D is.
Yeah, it's exhausting. it's really exhausting. Oh boy. Um I I hate this. We need to talk about these so I saw a lot of I saw a lot of love for the vending machines, and I do agree it's a really cool concept. Um my problem with the vending machines, so the appeal of Adventure Time, right? One of the appeals of Adventure Time is you have these characters in this like post-apocalyptic but also kind of fantasy world that's had like ages and ages of like kingdoms and stuff that have risen and fallen. You have all these dungeons and old cities, but like the appeal of an abandoned vending machine in Ooh is I can go up to that vending machine, crack it open, and take all the soda in it and bring it back to my treehouse. Um, the wizards have capitalized on the vending machines in this world. So these are not actually abandoned vending machines. They are vending machines that appear to be run down, but are actually used to continue the mercantile colonialist uh like sentiments and ideas of D&D.
It's an American tabletop RPG. You gotta have capitalism in it.
Yeah, the vending machines have been colonized. Like it's
I think it's a really neat idea, but again, everything just feels slightly off.
yeah, it's a neat idea, I think, but that's to me weakened by the fact that it has to be D&D, and thus like everything has to be in like like hang on, like if you look at like the art for the book, right? Like I look at this. I mean, hmm. Okay, I will say at least they've like kind of made it like okay, these are very clearly like a vending machine has been fully repurposed by wizards. There's like stuff posted on the side of it. I'm a little more okay with it, but also I feel like a quintessential thing that I like about this sort of setting is lost there. IMO. But I also get it, yeah, you gotta collect more coins. You gotta get your coins. Highlight inspirations. Does Zelda have a quiet love affair with lonely, bittersweet heroism? I guess it does, in some ways.
Yeah.
Depends on the game, but most of them, yeah. Fearless wonder of the natural world. This is a little. There's something missing here, right? Like they don't fully understand it. I don't know if Adventure Time always invokes these things through a childlike lens. I think Adventure Time invokes other things through a childlike lens for sure, but not to go line by line here.
The funny thing for me is I've only ever seen maybe, let's say, the first 8 episodes of Adventure Time. So for me, that sounds fine. So you have to assume that the person who said it had only also seen the first few episodes of Adventure Time.
Yeah, Adventure Time goes hard later on. Like it's a hell of a show. Zelda Bradley is Link alone for stalling and prophecy at end times, pushing it back a bit. Will always come back again. Yeah, I'm curious. Like, what does heroism look like in this world? I'm very curious about that, which is why someone should obtain me a copy of this when it's released, if you have it. Because I would love to look it up. I mean, I would hate to look it up, but I would love to look it up. And they're gonna do the whole comics animated shorts. They're gonna have a TV show on Amazon or whatever. Probably not, but it's the grift. Like, not necessarily the grift, but it's the wheels turn.
Also, another thing that I just thought of that I want to bring up for this being a 5th edition supplement and everything. I don't see why people are still making 5th edition supplements. Like, I get that it's a popular system, but Wizards of the Coast has already shown that we can't trust them to be consistent with how they treat materials that are made by third parties. So it seems like an extremely risky move to have your $1 million+ Kickstarter be completely hinging on that.
Yeah, it's. I agree. It's it's like, I think that the OGL thing really showed that there is nothing that can kill D&D 5e. Unfortunately, they could do the worst possible thing, and they wouldn't die.
I will personally kill D&D 5e.
I will charge their base and destroy them instantly with my strikes, my 1,000 strikes of justice. Yeah, it is possible they have a good contract. I mean, they are run by, like, just looking at this, 3 3 short-haired white men. Just looking at what I can see. Yeah, you hate to see it, but you also love to. Sidebar. Cozy Town, the RPG. I just want to talk about Cozy Town really quickly. Split Party has already talked about this, but this is one of my least favorite games ever made. For a very specific reason. Let me. Cozy. There's a thing that this book says that really is fascinating. And I promise, like, to be clear, I like this person's work. I'm being critical of the book. So cozy tokens are a mechanic of the game, but they're also a way to show how cozy we feel. Whenever you feel cozy or happy about how the game is going, take a cozy token. This is a quiet year type game, so you control the narrative by using cozy tokens. So if you are happy or cozy about how the game is going, you can get cozy tokens and thus spend them to make yourself more cozy. But if a player isn't happy or cozy about the way the game is going, they get less, so they have less narrative control. Do you see how this could be a problem?
That is okay.
Just a sidebar, sorry.
I don't get it. But hey, if someone likes it, I guess I'm not gonna play it with them, but
yeah,
good for them.
To be clear, the writer for that is very cool. but also I have problems with that, and I wanted to just the cozy talk has made me the cozy talk has made me go feral. I'm totally open to being critical about games on this show. I think it's important. I think it's important that like uh you know it's acceptable to be critical about people's work on in the TTRPG zone, TTRPG realm. Um, but yeah, that's I guess. Do you have any other thoughts about the Ojima stuff? Sorry, I kind of sidetracked us.
Uh, not really. Overall, I think that I if I had to put it into 3 words, I would say cringe, but unoffensive
Yeah, yeah.
or inoffensive.
I would say that about the game. I think the Wired article is
Yeah, the promotion is definitely rougher.
if I had to do 3 words for the Wired article, it would be what the fuck. Like I'm just confused. I'm not even really that mad. Um so the last subject is a lighter one. And I kind of wanted to talk about I don't know, there are some angles here. Um like this is another like big licensed game one. So we're going to talk about Evil Genius sues Netflix over canceled Rebel Moon TTRPG. Zack Snyder's rejected Star Wars film turned Netflix franchise was supposed to have a massive TTRPG release ahead of its premiere. Some highlights from this. So on a Nerd Queen stream, Snyder praised the TTRPG adaptation. Said he was having a really good time with TTRPG. So he was actively talking about it, and then there was a bunch of information. 430-page player's guide and 337-page game master's guide, which is insane. Pearl Moon World Bible. So like clearly there was an effort here to kind of make their version of like a Star Wars RPG for Rebel Moon. Which is interesting. I'm just like sorry, I thought that was Obama in the ad for a second, but it's clearly not Obama.
It could be.
Yeah, it could be. It is really interesting. Like it's rare that something this high profile from like film like bounces back into like TTRPG space. The reason why I said this is kind of a lighter thing is like I don't really know if I have many takes about this necessarily. It's just kind of fascinating.
Yeah, overall, it just kind of seems like a bummer situation for everyone involved. And I really want the game publisher to win.
Me too. Netflix really just fucking bullies people. Like it's a shame. I wonder if there's any pictures of this. Rebel Moon TTRPG. Because apparently there are photos of the books. These are fun. I don't really care about Rebel Moon because I don't really like Zack Snyder as a director, personally.
Yeah.
As a Jewish person, I have some choice words for the man who decided to make Superman Jesus. But you know, this is about more than him. It's a bunch of creatives. It's like a bunch of TTRPG creatives, and I hope they get their I hope they get what they're worth. So I think that's all I really have to say about that. Just a little tight one. After the mess that was the Ojima talk. Not really a mess. We had a nice conversation. More so that it was long. That's my fault. But yeah. What was I gonna? Oh yeah. So next is audience questions. We do not have any emails. Sapphic World Snyder Cut? Oh god. Gonna scream. Let me... Please, if you have any questions, before Apocrypha, the last bird shows up, please, I mean, not before, but, at any point, uh, please send an email to darlingdemoneclipse@gmail.com and get that in, because, we'd love to read your questions, or you can ask questions in chat, frankly. Nothing stopping you from doing that. There we go. Give me a minute, I can send an email. Hell yeah. But yeah, folks can either ask questions in chat or in the email for myself or Holly. Authentic Wine Flavor in chat asks where is a cool place to buy cool dice?
So, something that you gotta worry about when you're buying dice is a lot of places will take the cheapest possible a generic brand dice and sell them for quite a bit more than you should pay for them.
Hmm.
Uh, especially like when you're at a Comic-Con, for instance, I've seen people selling literal dollar store tabletop dice sets for $6 or something like that. So trustworthy sources are kind of tricky to nail down, but my personal favorites are bricesdice.com and Die Hard Dice. Bryce's Dice is a really just great website. They list the manufacturers for all of the dice they sell there. They do like really good pre-order deals if you're trying to order stuff from ChessX or anything like that. And their customer service is incredible.
Nice. What was the other place?
Die Hard Dice. They are a sort of dice manufacturer that works with, I believe, Hangada, one of the larger Chinese dice manufacturers. And they are one of the few places where you can actually still get sharp-edged acrylic dice.
Ooh.
Which is something that's rarer now because it's like kind of the style that was popular in the 80s, but now you have a lot more rounded things. Yeah. There's also a website called Heartbeat Dice, which has really great Pride sets, and I love the stuff from them.
Nice.
But everything for that website is run by one person, so it takes them quite a while to get orders out, so you do have to be patient.
Gamers today not want sharp dice. They want cozily Ghibli inspired dice. Why are we seeing more soft edge dice? Is it because of pain or is it manufacturing?
How in depth do you want me to go here?
As much as you like.
Okay. So in the 80s, the reason that most dice were sharp edged is because that's just the easiest way to mold plastic dice, just pop them out of the mold and sell them directly to customers after, getting the sprue off. And after a while, companies started outsourcing specifically to a factory in Taiwan and one in Europe, where they were producing tumbled dice with the softer edges. And these were made by a process where they come out of the mold with the sharp edges, and then they just coat the dice in paint, and then tumble them so the paint is all worn away except for what's in the numbers. So it has rounder edges, but it's a lot faster to produce. And you don't have to have people putting the numbers in by hand with a crayon or anything like that.
Huh. Neat.
And that manufacturing method just kind of stuck around. I think a big reason why it's so popular is because ChessX is the main company that does it. And I
Right.
love ChessX so much, but like it's kind of a bummer that round dice are the norm now.
Yeah.
But we've been seeing sharp edge dice come back a lot with the handmade dice makers like Etsy and things like that. People will cast their own dice, and because it's such a small like manufacturing operation, they can just do the numbers by hand and sell them like that.
Interesting.
Anyway, sorry, probably more in depth than people wanted, but
No, you're
there you
good.
go.
Dice are fascinating. They're fascinating little candies that you can eat as much as you want.
No, that's true. There's no negative repercussions for that.
Yeah. Uh, Jewish Cthulhu asks, Holly and Eclipse, what's your favorite weird TTRPG? I gotta think.
Hmm.
Weird is such a general. So many weird games.
We've already talked a lot about Troika, but another one that I don't know if it's necessarily weird, but I really like is oh, actually no, change that. Uh oh dang, Bigfoot stole my car with my best friend's birthday present inside. It is a one it is a one-page tabletop RPG, and I have played it so many times at like small gatherings with friends and everything. And every time we play it, it is hilarious and really, really fun.
There we are. That's by Eden. Eden's cool. Let me see if I can get. We're going deep into my library here. 1 second. Actually, that wouldn't be. It would be my library, not my dashboard. My library. Let's see. Gonna look at all my games. What here have I played? There's so many games in this beautiful world of ours. I'm trying to think of one that people probably haven't heard about before from me. Cause like, I have a couple that I could just do. Actually, I really like You Are a Wizard by my friend Polychromatic. Uh, the table bottom paint game. You Are a Wizard. It's a great game. It's a really great belonging outside belonging style game, BOB token style game. And it's all made in MS Paint, which is really cute. And it's the thing that made me become friends with some of my favorite people. So I have a lot of thoughts about it, and I really like it. Duck asked, "What's the most creative thing you've seen done with typography in a TTRPG?" Everything in Werewolves Inside Me by Stargazer Sasha. not to just do the same couple people, but honestly, also like Morkborg. You got any fun font stuff, Holly?
No, not really. I guess the most out of the norm stuff I've seen would have been in Troika.
Yeah,
I really want to see someone make a base TTRPG rulebook, with like House of Leaves level, weird typography stuff. You know,
yes,
if
please.
we could ever see something like that, I would really like it. But no, as far as I've seen, it's just been boring Arial font.
Fuck Ariel.
Comic Sans is where it's at.
Comic Sans is great. Um, I use Cambria in all my docs, as you've probably seen, because I think it gives it a it gives it Cambria has an officialness that I really like.
Yeah.
It feels like you're looking at the real document. Like, yeah,
I always just use Courier New.
Courier
I
News
don't know
good.
why. I just like it.
I like. Hang on, I'm just gonna take a look. Yeah, I like Courier New. I also like in Google. I like Elite. Is Elite in Google? I think it is. That's the like typewriter. Yeah, Special Elite is a fun one. It's like the typewriter type one.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have a bunch of ones on my computer. Like I have Ugly Qua, which is the Sapphic World font. I have fucking JMH typewriter, which is a typewriter. I have Optimus Princept, which is a Dark Souls font. In fact, I'm gonna write something with Optimus Princept.
Uh, the font that I used for the logo of Moxie I really like, but It seems to go by like 30 different names because I'm pretty sure it was just a generic one in the 70s that branched out.
Nice.
Um, I do really like that one, even if it is a bit hard for people to read.
It's a cool font. Let me see if I can let me get that up. Uh, there we go. Yeah, I like it. It's a very cool one. Um, I think the weirdest font that I've ever used was for Destroyed Valley. Let me pull that book up because I misunderstood. So Destroyed Valley was made because my friend uh Stargazer Sasha had a dream of like a book cover that was made by me, and she said that like the font on it was Matrix, and I looked for Matrix and I couldn't find it. This was the only font that I could find. This like bizarre, like wibbly wobbly ass font.
Hmm.
And I really like it. It's really bizarre. It's a very eclectic little font. Um, yeah. Does anyone have any other questions? We're here to talk. we're just shooting the shit for I'll say probably about a half an hour. I want to go eat. So we'll probably wrap it up a little bit sooner than usual, but or sooner than last time. But yeah, the stories this week were a little shorter, so that's how it is. Um, yeah. If
Yeah,
anyone, feel free to shoot.
if you ever want to have me on again, I'll make sure that I put some dice stuff aside.
Hell yeah, that would be awesome. We could definitely have
Um,
some dice talk. What TTRPG has the most Riz?
Riz.
Hmm, that's hard.
I mean, if someone came up to me and told me that they play Monster of the Week, like I would think that's a pretty cool person, you know?
Yeah, I hmm. I almost said thirsty sword lesbians, but oh, should I really get into my thirsty sword lesbians opinions on here? That's like so dangerous. Okay, I need to be so diplomatic. I like thirsty sword lesbians, but it's a book published by Evil Hat, and that's
Mm,
as far as I'm gonna go. It's actually maybe I'll go a little bit further. It's a very good book. It's a very good game. It's a very well designed book and game. I just wish it were more toxic. I wish it were more toxic Yuri a little bit. Um, I wish it were a bit more fucked up. That's all. And that's just my opinion, you know. And there are tons of really great and really, there are a lot of really great people who have really like, eclectic and kinky and interesting takes and tastes who, uh, you know, are involved in that game. So I don't want to disparage them. Just saying, I think it could be a bit more nasty. So that's not my game that has Riz. Um, what game? Oh, Dungeon Bitches.
oh, I've heard of that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, my friend Wendy, her partner made Dungeon Bitches, which is neat. Um, yeah, Dungeon Bitches has Riz. Dungeon Bitches is sexy. It's dark. It's for the dolls. It's for the dolls. That's all I'll say. Um, like I don't even know if I can show this on Twitch, so uh, I'll just show a little bit of the art. But yeah, this game has Riz. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like it's nasty, it's slutty, and that's what you want. That's why you have me. You have me for the toxic Yuri. Wait, why Wave was said meet and fuck kingdom. Meet and fuck kingdom, Steve. God. Uh yeah. Um I'm trying to think of any other games that I like really. Wait, which game? Oh, you didn't know the mean fucking about tabletop adaptation? Yeah, it does. You just don't know how to find it. It's in a secret cavern. You have to go on an adventure. You have to get a magic sword to obtain it. Um, yeah. In terms of unreleased games, my friend Lilith's game Euphoria has Riz, but that's just getting into like the problem with this series is that I'm just gonna like say I love this game about like my friends 4 or 5 work in progress games. um, but yeah, feel free to drop more questions or send an email. I'm still watching the email, so feel free to drop any additional questions that you have. Hmm, yeah. I think if I have any additional topics or questions for you, uh, myself, or just things that we can talk about. Um, thoughts and this is I guess I'll ask you about this, Holly. Duck asks thoughts on imprisoning princesses in dice.
Depends on the princess.
Ethical or not, says Duck.
Well, again, depends on the princess. Uh, I would say mostly ethical.
Yeah,
Like 85%.
because they are monarchs technically.
Yeah. No.
Does that count as role play? Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. That's been a fun thing. I really like. I I think there's a lot of space for like games, and I think writing in general to like play with the uh to play with like the idea of um princesses and kings and queens and princes is like inherently a little fucked up. Um
Yeah, if it was like a real world monarch, then yeah, 100% put them in the D20.
yeah, I agree.
Actually, no, put them in the D4. I feel like that would be the cruelest one.
You're gonna put Bun in a D4? That's fucked up. Bun is my partner, who is a princess. She's a funny little rabbit cat princess. Um, she will get stuck in the prison, in the prison. Um, yeah. Uh, you know, I think my throat is starting to hurt a little bit, and I need to eat.
Yeah, no.
I think it might be a good time to wrap. Okay, we'll respond to this last question from Give Me a Duck from Duck. Uh, why do people hate D4s?
So, D4s are kind of a meme. And so the joke is like, oh, you stepped on a D4. It's basically like you're getting stabbed or whatever. I have some hot takes about the shapes and numbering styles of D4s, personally. Um, like, yeah, caltrops. That's the word I was thinking of.
Please elaborate. Would love to hear.
So, back in the 80s, a company called Game Science started selling D4s that are actually the shape of D8s, but just numbered 1 through 4 twice.
Hmm.
And that is my favorite version of a D4. But there's also like some new versions that some like handmade dice people have started doing, where it's like the shape of a crystal or something like that, and I do really prefer those to just the Prism D4.
I'm seeing some pretty wild shit from Game Science.
Oh, Game science is an entire subject on their own.
I'm gonna put some of this up on the stream because it's kind of nutty. Uh, I mean, yeah, they got
Yeah,
a Zocahedron Silver D100
yes.
D total.
Zoki, I really want to get a Zokihedron because the way they're made is really neat. They actually have a bunch of sand in them to keep them from rolling for too long.
Oh, that's
But
fun.
tracking one down for a decent price is really difficult.
Unlinked ugly dice one-off 12-piece set. Just fucked up mangled dice. I like these hard edge die. Very cool.
So, Game Science is one of the first actual manufacturers of tabletop dice
Oh,
for
neat.
the purpose of tabletop gaming. Uh, for a while, for about like 3 years or so, ending in like 2022, it was unethical to purchase from them because they were being run by like this big Republican dude
Ugh.
who like put a bunch of weird racist dog whistles into a publicity email he sent out to people.
Yike.
So I kind of boycotted them for a bit, but the
They're
company was sold back to the original owner, and now I think they're just selling off stock of what they already made, but they're pretty much out of business.
That's a shame. Some really funky looking dice here. I like this one. Uh, well, you know, bless them. I I hope that I hope more strange die are created in this
Hmm.
world of ours.
They have the thing called the D total, the
Yes, I
weird
saw
red
that.
one over there.
It's very cool.
That is every shape of a normal 7 die set put into one like weird die.
Oh, so if you roll it, no matter what, it'll act as any die basically.
Yeah, it is impossible to use.
Yeah, it seems insane.
Hmm.
That's awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here. This was really fun. I really enjoyed having you on. Um,
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I feel like we got to talk about some stuff that I normally wouldn't talk about on these streams, like dice and old school zine stuff. So that was really fun, and exciting. Um, is there anywhere that we haven't mentioned yet that you'd like people to find you?
Main ones are gonna be on Twitter.
Yes, let me get
Let
your
me find my Tumblr at.
yes, get your
Pretty sure it's just ChiskenNougat.
uh
Yeah.
there you are. Twitter,
But
Tumblr.
yeah, I'll be posting on Twitter until it starts costing money to do so. So
Yeah.
after that, I guess I'm just going to Tumblr. I don't know. I really don't like Tumblr as a platform, but it's pretty much all I got.
It is what it is. Yeah, I hear ya. Um, let's who are we gonna raid? What options do I have? Um, I'm looking at my options here. I would like to raid. I don't know if I've seen Sarah raid stream recently. I'm gonna raid a Sarah BB. Go say hi to Sarah. Sarah is playing Toho. Toho Artificial Dream in Arcadia, which I don't know anything about, because I don't know anything about Toho, but go check it out. Toho Teehee. Musk has talked about making you have to pay to do tweets. You have to be verified to tweet. Or no, sorry. Yeah, I think I don't know. There's gonna be some sort of fucking paywall. It's gonna be bad.
Yeah, I have no clue.
Yeah. Well. Thank y'all for watching. Thanks for being on, Holly, and I'll be back. Am I gonna be back next week? Let me double check. Uh, Hang on. Calendar. Sorry, I really should have this up. Oh god, we're running out of time. Sorry. uh, I leave. I'll be back on Monday, October 9th with. Is that? Who I think it is. I think it might be. Yes, with Stargazer Sasha, who we have mentioned a couple times. And then there'll be a hiatus of a week, and I'll be back again after that with Riley Rethal, creator of Galactic 2E. So, yeah, keep an eye out for that, and I'll see y'all probably sometime this week for like Baldur's Gate or Dragon Age or something. Bye!
Remember, if you don't like what you see, you can change it. It's up to you, really. Goodbye, good luck, and have fun!